Ada Twist the Scientist by Andrea Beauty, illustrated by David Roberts. From the New York's best time-selling creators of the Iggy Pig, architect and Rosie River engineer. Ada Twist the Scientist. Ada Mary, said not a word till the day she turned 3. She bounced in her crib and looked all around, observing the world but not making a sound. She learned how to climb and make a big break, with trail of chaos left in her wake. She ran through the day, chasing each sound and sight, and didn't slow down till she conked out at night. Her parents were frazzled, but tried not to speak. As Ada grew bigger, she still did not speak. Clearly, young Ada, with lots in her head, would have something to say when it ought to be said. And that's what happened when Ada turned 3. She tore through the house on a fact-finding spree and climbed the clock just as high as she could. Her parents yelled, "Stop!" as all good parents would. Ada's chin quivered, but she did not cry. She took a deep breath and simply asked, "Why?" Why does it tick, and why does it talk? Why don't we call it a granddaughter clock? Why are the pointy things stuck in a nose? Why are there hairs up inside your nose? Why? She started with why, and then what, how, and when. By bedtime, she came back to why once again. She drifted to sleep and dazed her parents' smile at the curious thoughts of a curious child who wanted to know what the world was about. They kissed and whispered, "You'll figure it out." Her parents kept with her high-flying kid, whose questions and chaos both grew as she did. Even Miss Greer found out her hands were quite full when young Ada's chaos wreaked havoc at school. This was much clearer about Miss Ada Twist. She had a lot of traits of a great scientist. Ada was busy that first day of spring, testing the sounds that make mockingbirds sing, when the horrible stench back her right at her nose. A pungent aroma that curled up to her toes. "Zowie!" said Ada, which got her to thinking. What is the source of that terrible stinking? How does this nose know that there was something to smell? And does it still sting if there's no nose to tell? She rattled off questions and tapped her chin. She'd start where she'd ought to begin. A mystery, a riddle, a puzzle, a quest. This was the moment that Ada loved the best. Ada did research to learn all she could of smelling and smells, both stinky and good. One hypothesis Ada thought could be true: the terrible stink that came from Dada's cabbage stew. She tested and tested, but soon Ada knew it was time to come with a hypothesis too. Then zowie! The stink struck again, just like that. Hypothesis 2. It's caused by the cat. The cat couldn't make such stink on its own. It needed perfume and some fancy cologne. So young Ada tested. The test was a flop. Then she started again, but her parents yelled, "Stop!" Ada Mary, to the thinking chair, now. By the time we count to 3. "Enough," said her mother. "That's it," said her dad. Her parents were frustrated, frazzled, and mad. "Why?" Ada questioned. Her mother said no. "What?" Ada cured. Her father said go. "You've ruined our supper. You've made the cat sing. Enough with your questions. Now sit down there and think." She looked at her parents and her heart turned to goo. Poor Ada Twist didn't know what to do. She sat all alone by herself in the hall, and Ada once more could say nothing at all. And so Ada sat. She thought about the science and stew and the cat, and how her experiments made such a big mess. Does it have to be so? Is it part of success? Are there messes a problem? And while she was thinking, she was a source of that terrible stinking? Ada Mary did what scientists do. She asked the small questions and then asked two. Each of those led her to three more questions more. And some of those questions resulted in four. As Ada got thinking, she really dug in. She scribbled her questions and tapped on her chin. She started with why, and then what, how, and when. At the end of the hall, she reached why once again. Her parents calmed down, and they came back to talk. They looked at the hallway and just had to gawk. No patches of bare paint could be seen on the wall. The thinking chair was now a great thinking hall. They watched her young daughter and sighed as they did. What would they do with this cutest kid who wanted to know what the world was about? They smiled and whispered, "We'll figure it out." And that's what they did, because that's what you do. When your kid has a passion and heart, that's true. They remade the world. Now they're all in the act of helping young Ada sort fiction from fact. She asked a lot of questions. How could she resist? It's all in her heart of a young scientist. And as for that smile, what can Ada just do but learn all she can with her friends in grade 2? Will they discover the sting of her curl's toes? Well, that's the question, and someday, who knows? The end.